Alright, and welcome back. This video I'm going to be attaching the skeleton to the skins to start match drilling some of the holes. And also I was able to get my GoPro functioning correctly, so here you see a separate angle for once in my videos. I'm going to try to start incorporating these more. I've recently acquired a second video camera to permanently mount somewhere and try to get another angle so that these videos are not so monotonous, I guess. Anyway, so right here I'm working on I call it a bracket for the bottom rib, but I believe, if I understand correctly, that this is basically a brace that I'm going to be installing on the bottom rib to allow for a fairing to be attached later on, the bottom fairing of the rudder. So here you see me matching up to the right skin. And again, this is just the preliminary matchup where you'll cleco the frame to the skin, and then there's certain holes that you match drill. So that's what I'm starting to do here. Now at some point I will be getting rid of the bluing. I've mentioned before in some of my videos I don't care to keep the bluing on. I've heard some builders refer to it as it becomes a problem later on if you leave the bluing on too long, in that it gets harder to take off, it seems. And as I've said before, I'm going to be scratching the heck out of the surface anyway when it goes to paint, so I'm not too terribly worried about scratches. It's not a beauty contest if you're going to put paint on it. So if I was going to make this an aluminum skin airplane and not put paint, then I'd be worried about, you know, scratches and things like that. And even then, I'm pretty sure they can buff out. But anyway, so here I'm starting to line it up with the skins, get everything matched up, and it's not as I don't want to say difficult, that's not the right word, but it's not as awkward, I guess, as the vertical stabilizer skin, because the vertical stabilizer skin is preformed and it's bent. It's shaped to curve around the front end of the vertical stabilizer ribs, whereas the rudder is two separate skin pieces, so you don't have to worry about trying to fold or mold the skin around the front end so much. That's one of the difficulties or at least I had with the vertical stabilizer skin, is you cleco the one side, and then when you go to attach the opposite side to the frame, you kind of have to finagle and stretch it just right and maneuver it just right to get that first cleco in, to get that bite, and then you can start going down the successive holes with clecos to get it lined up. But the first couple of clecos are not the easiest to install, just because of the skin has to stretch around the front end of the ribs. So here on this one, obviously being that they're two separate pieces, it's a whole lot easier to line everything up. It's just a matter of finding the holes and getting the cleco in place. And you don't obviously have to worry about folding the piece around to match with the opposite side skin, or the opposite side holes there. So anyway, like I said, this is the other bracket for the bottom rib, and like I said, I'm fairly certain that that's where the one of the fairings will be attached to for the bottom of the rudder. So I think the second video camera, I'm probably going to mount on that column that you see right next to the light stand, just to kind of get an overhead shot of what I'm doing on the workbench. And then I'll still keep the GoPro around to try to get that really up close shot. There's a couple videos that I've made where I made mistakes with rivets and I had to drill them out. And so I tried to get some close-up shots of the process of removing rivets. It's not terribly difficult, but you got to be careful that you don't elongate the hole at all, obviously, because then you have to worry about the rivets actually seating correctly. And they do make what I've heard mentioned as oops rivets, where if it's a size 3 hole and you have to drill out the rivet and you slightly enlarge the hole, you can get a size 4 rivet with a size 3 head. So it mounts flush and mounts correctly on the surface, but the actual shaft of the rivet is a size 4 instead of a size 3, and it helps to fill in those elongated or enlarged holes there. I haven't ordered any. I probably should, just to have them on hand just in case. I've certainly had to remove my fair share of rivets already, mostly because I got ahead of myself in the instructions and assumed the rivet order. Case in point, when I attached the rudder horn brace, I riveted in place. I think they're 4-6s. They're fairly long and fairly large rivets, comparatively speaking, anyway. So I put it in and then realized that there's 4 or 5 blind rivet holes for blind rivets for the bottom rib. The 2 halves get attached to each other with blind rivets, and I made the mistake of attaching the rudder horn brace first before I worried about those blind rivets, and didn't realize until after I'd already gotten everything put together for the brace and riveted in place. So now I get the joy of going back and drilling those rivets out, just so I can put in those 4 or 5 blind rivets for the bottom rib. But it's important, obviously, that if Van's made a hole for a rivet, it's there for a reason. So got to go back and undo my stupidity, so to say. So it takes some time, but it's, like I said, it's not a difficult task. You just got to be careful with it. And like I said, hopefully the video comes out okay and you can see the process and how you should take rivets out. So you can see all the clecos there. All of the clecos going from forward to aft, which would be from right to left on the screen there. Those are where the stiffeners will be in place. And those are what you will back rivet using the back rivet plate. And there you see me putting the wedge in place there, the trailing edge wedge. But you'll back rivet those using the back rivet plate, and you tape the rivets in place on the machine head side, and then you rivet the other side to set the rivet. And it's actually a really nice method of doing it. One word of caution, obviously, is that make sure you're aware of the edges of your back rivet plate. If you try to go to rivet to set a rivet and you're over the edge, you're obviously going to crease your skin at best. More likely you have a very good chance of puncturing a hole through your skin. So it's very important that you realize where the edges are, and you be very careful to not extend over the edge of that rivet plate. So then you put the left side on, and again you'll do the same thing. You'll cleco it in place. If I recall correctly, at the top, you'll see in the top left corner of the rudder, that's where the counterbalance weight is, and that's the part that sits over the vertical stabilizer. But the forward end of that, the skins overlap each other, and so anytime a skin overlaps another, you will bend the leading edge of the top plate, top skin in a little bit, so that way when it rivets, it stays flush and sits correctly. If you don't bend it inwards, then the riveting process tends to cause it to bow out a little bit, and to prevent that, you just bend it in towards the towards the surface again, and it keeps it looking the way it should. So I'm going to go ahead and let this video run out here. The next video should see me working more on getting these skins prepared, and then get all the pieces ready to go for final assembly. Starting to finally have something that looks something like an airplane part. So this is a pretty fun process for me. So like I said, if you get a chance, leave a comment or a question below. By all means, I'm more than happy to answer any of those. And also, if you could, hit that like button for me. All right, we'll see you next time.